Welcome back. Reporter time. Love it. Julia Manchester, White House correspondent for The Hill. Dave Levinthal, senior editor at NOTUS. Remember, News of the U.S. Yes, is what NOTUS stands for. All right, Dave, very quickly. We try to keep our audience apprised of what's happening on the House floor, because sometimes that's chaotic, but today they actually got some things done. The National Defense Authorization Act passed. Stock trading ban, limited though it was, also passed. And there are components in each of the president's never-ending obsession about the SAVE Act.
Without question, they're doing everything that they possibly can to try to slice and dice and splice and salt bills with the president's priority. The stock bill in particular, which bans members of Congress from buying stock, although it allows them to hold on to stock, has a voter ID provision in it. Nevertheless, even though every Republican voted for it, 13 Democrats joined them as well. So it shows what a priority is, and it's incredibly popular among Republicans, Democrats, and independents when you talk to real voters in this country.
Right, and when you put those two together and send them to the Senate, their fate is uncertain.
Dubious at best,
right.
It's likely that the Senate will just give it the big thumbs down.
Julia, your thoughts on legislation in the House, what's going on in the Senate, and this idea that Congress is trying to figure out a way to avoid a shutdown, but also pay for this war. No resolution there either.
No resolution there either. I've been watching the president today, who is on his way back from Marietta, Georgia. He was campaigning there, touting his affordability agenda, no tax on tips. But I thought it was very interesting. He once again re-upped his calls for the Save America Act to be passed, despite Senate Republicans saying over and over again they don't have the votes. He called on it's very scripted. He called on them to nix the filibuster, said the Senate is where things go to die. So this is something that President Trump is very focused on. I think it's interesting, though, when we look at two states that are sort of in the limelight right now. You had Arizona last night, those primaries, in Georgia today, two states that were very much the epicenter of his 2020 unfounded election fraud claims. He didn't mention those in his speech today, but it is very clear that he is very much pushing the Save America
And,
Act.
Julia, to your point, in the Arizona primary results, you could look at those and say those on the MAGA hard right who denied the 2020 election rose.
Absolutely. I mean, you have a Secretary of State nominee on the Republican side, someone who will be overseeing elections in Arizona. If elected.
Adrian Fontes, a Democrat, is a formidable Secretary of State seeking re-election.
But it's notable that they got through a primary. The gubernatorial candidates, the list goes on. What I did think, though, from the Democratic side, because we've talked a lot about Republicans today, I thought it was notable. Congressman Greg Stanton, a moderate Democrat, actually beat his Democratic Socialist opponent, something that I think has gone a little
running
under
counter
the radar.
narrative.
Absolutely.
I'm so glad you brought that up.
Yes, in a swing state like
Dave,
Arizona.
you have a penchant in this town recently of finding an amazing trove of nuggets, news nuggets inside financial disclosure forms. And you have a headline, top DHS official mimicking congressional Democrats' investments. What's going on?
There is a fund. It's a fund that literally mirrors the stock trades that Democrats in Congress make. So if Nancy Pelosi's husband makes a stock trade,
Paul Pelosi,
Paul Pelosi, the fund will automatically go ahead and invest in what Paul Pelosi is doing, and everyone else who's in Congress who's a Democrat. Bottom line, an undersecretary in the Trump administration in DHS, he invested up to $50,000 in this particular fund. He didn't want to talk about it when we reached DHS, but the manager of that fund basically said, that's crazy, and it's a conflict of interest.
Why is it a conflict of interest?
Well, it's a conflict of interest because this undersecretary oversees science and technology. And this
at DHS.
At DHS. And this fund in particular, well, it's incredibly tech-heavy. So every big one, the Apples, the NVIDIAs, and all the rest of them populate most of this particular fund. So just another example of where the personal finances of government officials are intersecting and sometimes colliding with the public responsibilities that government officials have.
I wonder, Julia, as your vantage point as a White House reporter, do you think this is a soft underbelly for this White House reputationally in the midterms? Because Democrats clearly are oriented toward making either corruption or sort of gaming the system one or two or three of the big issues behind affordability in the midterm.
Yeah, no question. And I hate to bring this back to Georgia. I'm going to sound like a broken record, but that's what John Ossoff is doing, the incumbent Democratic senator. He's using phrases like Mar-a-Lago mafia, talking about how corrupt the Trump administration is. And they're tying it into affordability, saying these guys, these are the big guys. They're messing it up for the little guys who aren't making, for the little people, the Main Street people, I should say, who aren't making as much and, essentially getting the raw end of the deal here. So I think this is how Democrats are running. The big question, though, is if they're attacking Trump, someone who is, the leader of the Republican Party, Trump's not at the top of the ticket, though.
Nope.
So how does this go up against Republicans who may run maybe state or local centric campaigns in their districts?
And 20 seconds, Dave. Essentially, when you check with the administration, they just say no harm, no foul. The way we interpret the rules, it's all fine. And that's not the way they've historically been interpreted.
No, not at all. And I should note, too, that in Georgia, Donald Trump did tease the idea that he would run for a third term for president of the United States.
Oh, great.
So there's always that to grapple with, too.
Great.
Yeah.
Julia Manchester, Dave Levinthal. Thanks for leaving us with that one, Dave. I appreciate it.